The day before I started my new job, I got completely wasted with my best friend. In a dazed, drunken haze, I ended up hooking up with her uncle. Then came my first day at work, only to realize that her uncle was none other than the company's CEO. What now? Help. Seriously. Online and waiting. Main story. Miss Patel, welcome to Sunshine Tech. We look forward to working with you. I'd been hired. The first thing I did was share the good news with my best friend. Sarah Huber was the textbook definition of a rich second-generation kid. When I was struggling with job applications and house hunting, she dragged me to her place, insisting she was too scared to live alone. She said her parents were abroad and that she lived only with her uncle. But apparently, he was so busy, he was rarely ever home. At first, I was worried I might run into him, but over time, it became clear, he truly was busy. I hadn't seen him once. To celebrate my successful interview, I made a special trip to the grocery store and planned a home-cooked dinner for Sarah. Whoa! Artie, you made sweet and sour ribs? Sarah pounced immediately, snatching up a piece before it even made it to the table. Yup. To celebrate, I start work tomorrow. Sarah spun around and headed straight to the wine cabinet. We have to celebrate. Sarah, didn't you say all the bottles in there were your uncle's private collection? Are you sure we should be opening them? Pop. Before I even finished my sentence, she'd already cracked one open. Relax. I did the math, my uncle is destined to live alone forever. So eventually, all of this is going to be mine anyway. I'm just collecting my inheritance a little early. Artie, come on, cheers. I hesitated for a moment, then picked up my glass and clinked it against hers, taking a cautious sip. Each is goodji. Right? I nodded. Drink up. There's more in the cabinet. One glass turned into two, then three. Until we were both stumbling back to our rooms, giggling uncontrollably. I had no idea how long I slept, but I eventually woke up parched and dizzy. I needed water. The living room was dim, lit only by a single lamp. My head felt even foggier. I chugged half a bottle of water and finally felt like I could breathe again. I opened the fridge to grab another bottle for Sarah, when a dark shadow suddenly appeared beside me. Ah! I jumped back in fright, dropping the water bottle right at my feet. I didn't notice and stepped right on it. The next thing I knew, the world spun, and I fell into someone's strong, steady arms. Blinking through my haze, I looked up and saw a face as beautiful as a painting. It's true what they say, the more well-behaved you are when sober, the more reckless you get when drunk. And I had no idea just how reckless I'd become. I reached out, tracing his perfect features, brows, nose, lips, jaw, until my hand finally rested on the Adam's apple at his throat. A low, pained groan escaped his lips. I gasped. Did I hurt you? I stood on my tiptoes and gently blew on the spot. There, all better now. And then, everything spiraled. The next morning, I stirred awake as my internal clock kicked in. Ow, everything hurts. Rubbing my temples, I groaned, did I fall while trying to get water last night? Sarah? No answer. I turned to the other side of the bed, and froze. My eyes went wide. I clamped my hand over my mouth to stifle the scream. Lying next to me wasn't Sarah, but a man. A man whose side profile looked eerily similar to Sarah's. At least an 80% match. I smacked my forehead. And slowly, memories from last night started flooding back. Oh no. I think I went completely off the rails. Looking around the unfamiliar room, I had a good idea of who he was. Ah. His back was covered in scratches. Just one glance filled me with guilt and shame. Thankfully, he was still asleep. I slipped out of bed as quietly as I could. Guilt-ridden, I kept my head down the entire way out, completely missing the way his eyes cracked open, and the faint smile at the corner of his lips. Standing outside the door, I let out a deep breath. The very first time I came to Sarah's house, she had warned me, this is my uncle's room. Never go in. Now I knew why. Some doors really should stay closed. When I got back to my room, Sarah was still fast asleep. I had to report to work today, so I pushed aside the swirling mess in my chest, quickly got ready, and left the house. One thing was clear, I couldn't live here anymore. Just as I arrived at the office, my phone rang. It was Sarah. Artie, where did you sleep last night? I got up in the middle of the night and didn't see you anywhere. You got up to look for me? My heart nearly jumped out of my throat. Oh, not really. The house is huge, I just figured I'd ask. When I didn't see you, I rolled over and went back to sleep. What a thoughtful bestie. Oh, by the way, why'd you leave so early? My uncle came home. I was going to introduce you. That won't be necessary. I blurted, a little too fast. It's my first day, I just wanted to get an early start. Don't worry, Artie. You're my best friend. I'd never let you get bullied. One day, when you're with my uncle. Whoa. What are you talking about? Your uncle and I have nothing going on. Don't be ridiculous. Sarah went silent for a moment, clearly caught off guard. Actually, Artie, my uncle. Sarah, weren't you the one who said he was doomed to be single forever? Plus, your uncle's like, old. I'm still young and thriving. You think I'd go for someone that age? I mean, even if he's the bull, doesn't mean he can chew tender grass. Anyway, gotta go, I'm heading to HR to sign my contract. Sarah used to complain about her uncle all the time. I'd heard it so often that her rants had pretty much burned themselves into my memory. That's probably why my reaction earlier came out so smoothly. After hanging up, I immediately switched my phone to airplane mode. I knew Sarah too well, this was the only way to keep the world quiet for a while. Last night felt like a dream. When I got to the HR office, I stared at the contract in front of me, confused. Manager Riley, I interviewed for a position in the R&D department yesterday. But this says I'm the president's secretary. Is this a mistake? He looked at me kindly and said, no mistake at all, Miss Patel. We were incredibly impressed with your resume. After reviewing everything carefully, we felt that the role of executive secretary to the president would be a better fit for your future here at Sunshine Tech. Is there a problem, Miss Patel? No. After signing the contract, Manager Riley led me straight to the executive suite. I sat down at my new desk, still in a bit of a daze. Then, the phone on my desk rang. Secretary Patel, please bring in a cup of coffee. And that was it. Reality set in, I was really about to bring coffee to the president. I walked into the office. The man behind the large desk was buried in documents. President Huber, your coffee. He lifted his head slightly. I sucked in a breath. That face, devastatingly handsome. I quickly lowered my gaze. The last thing I needed was to look like a starstruck fangirl on my first day. If there's nothing else, President Huber, I'll excuse myself now. There is. He leaned back in his chair. Secretary Patel, do I look old to you? President Huber, you must be joking. You don't look old at all. Not even a little. What do you think, he said casually, of the saying, older men eating tender grass? A bolt of lightning struck me on the spot. He was also named Huber? My uncle's name is Charlie. Though, you probably won't get a chance to meet him. Sarah's voice from days ago came rushing back like an explosion in my ears. Charlie. Huber. I blurted out before my brain could stop me. Charlie's lips curled into a teasing, knowing smirk. Don't worry, Artie. You're my best friend. I'd never let you get hurt. One day, when you're with my uncle. Sarah's words from earlier slammed into my chest like a hammer. Sarah's uncle was my boss. And last night? I had hooked up with my boss. President Huber, I think, when tender grass grows, it's there for the cow to eat. Charlie Huber stood up suddenly. The aura he exuded was overwhelming. He strode toward me, step by step, until my back hit the bookshelf. That's when I finally realized how close he was. One of his hands came up and rested against the shelf, caging me in. President Huber? I was wrong. Charlie laughed. Pretty bold of you, young lady. Sleep with me, pick up your clothes, sneak out without a word, not even a goodbye. That final thread of sanity I'd been clinging to, snapped. I cried. Yes, actually cried. Out of sheer panic. The massive office echoed with the sound of my sobs. Charlie paused, clearly startled. Then he said, almost gently, all right now, Secretary Patel. We've got plenty of time ahead of us. I left the office with my head bowed and rushed into the bathroom. I didn't return to my desk until I'd washed my face and composed myself. I'd made up my mind, I was quitting today. As long as I ran fast enough, Charlie couldn't stop me. As the end of the workday approached, I took a deep breath and prepared to go find Manager Riley. But before I could move, Manager Riley showed up, holding a copy of my contract. Secretary Patel, here's your contract duplicate. I forgot to give it to you this morning. Just as I opened my mouth to submit my resignation, Manager Riley shook his head and mumbled, clearly frustrated, new hires these days, absolutely no professionalism. Sign the papers in the morning, then try to resign in the afternoon? Do they think Sunshine Tech is some kind of revolving door? Did she even read the contract she signed? I watched him walk away, then quickly opened the copy. Oh my God. The penalty clause for early resignation made me see stars. No wonder Charlie had said, we've got plenty of time, with that smirk when I tried to quit earlier. I'd interviewed for the R&D department, but somehow ended up as his personal secretary. It had all been part of his plan. That cunning fox. I had no choice now but to stay at Sunshine Tech and work my butt off. As soon as the clock hit 6, I grabbed my bag and bolted. Just outside the main doors, I saw Sarah waving at me excitedly from her car. She looked so thrilled. But I was livid. Your uncle is the CEO of Sunshine Tech. Sarah nodded cheerfully. Yep. Why didn't you tell me? I didn't want you to feel like you were getting in through connections. You worked hard, and you got hired all on your own. I'm so proud of you. You know how hard it is to get into Sunshine Tech? They only accept a handful of new grads every year. Everything she said made perfect sense. But all I could picture was the smirk on Charlie's lips. And suddenly, I couldn't breathe. Then why didn't you say anything when I passed the interview? I was too excited and totally forgot. Oh, and speaking of which, I was going to introduce you to this morning. I saw my uncle come back last night, so I figured it'd be the perfect time to ask him to look after you, but then you'd already left. I thought, fine, I'll call instead, but you said those things over the phone. He got so mad, Artie. He took away my credit card. I'm broke now. It's just you and me? My gut told me, something very bad was coming next. Sure enough, the next second, Sarah clung to my arm, pouting like a child. Artie, I want sweet and sour ribs again. Come on, let's go buy the ingredients and make them tonight, okay? Nope. Your uncle's back now. It's really not convenient for me to stay at your place anymore. I'm crashing at the youth hostel tonight, and I've already started looking for an apartment. Sarah froze. You're abandoning me. Relax. My uncle only came home last night to grab something. This morning, before he left, he even said he won't be back for a while. My heart tensed. Before I could say anything, Sarah had already pulled me into the car. My uncle's not a monster, what's there to be scared of? At the supermarket, I glanced at the shopping cart packed full of snacks. Yep, figured. Sarah had only brought me along to foot the bill. By the time we got back, it was already dark. As soon as we stepped inside, Sarah dumped the bags on the floor, kicked off her shoes, and flopped dramatically onto the couch. Artie, toss me that sparkling water from your bag. Just as I reached into the grocery bag, a deep voice rang out behind me, don't you have hands of your own? Sarah practically sprang off the couch. Uncle? Why are you back? You said you wouldn't be coming home this week. Charlie frowned. I came to get something. He walked past us, carrying a folder, exuding that intense aura of his. I was so nervous, I didn't even dare to breathe. I'm heading out. He spoke without even looking at Sarah, his eyes were locked on me. Sarah didn't catch it, but I saw the glint of amusement in his gaze. You uncle, bye. I opened my mouth, trying to speak, but the words stuck in my throat. President Huber, goodbye. Charlie chuckled. My face flushed red. I stood there, stunned, until Sarah waved a hand in front of my face. Artie, are you okay? Your face is bright red. Poor Uncle Charlie. He's getting older and keeps forgetting things at home. As I stepped out of the president's office the next day, Assistant Bogard popped up beside me. Secretary Patel, tell me honestly, those scratch marks on President Huber's neck don't look like they were made by a cat. They look way more like, a woman's nails. 1,000 curses piled up in my throat, but I swallowed every single one of them. Bogard leaned in conspiratorially, lowering his voice. We're doomed. You and we've uncovered President Huber's secret. Huh? He's seeing someone. It's not official yet, but come on, did you see those marks? That woman must be ruthless. Just look at what she did to him. Secretary Patel, who do you think she is? In my head, I muttered, your grandma. That evening, Bogard accompanied Charlie to a company gala. I stayed behind to finish some reports and didn't leave the office until after 9. As I stepped out, I noticed a sleek black car parked by the front doors. I paused. The window rolled down, revealing Bogard's grinning face. Secretary Patel. Get in. President Huber said he'd give you a ride, it's on the way. The moment I opened the door, I was hit with a wave of alcohol. Charlie was in the back seat, eyes closed, seemingly asleep. Secretary Patel, what's your address? Without thinking, I blurted out Sarah's. I immediately saw Bogard's eyes widen in disbelief. Yeah, that neighborhood was absurdly expensive. I'm staying at a friend's, I added quickly. Drive, Charlie ordered from the back, his voice low and firm. The car started moving. Bogard remained silent the entire ride, focused on the road. Inside, it was dark. Streetlights flashed past, casting fleeting shadows across Charlie's sharp, handsome features. Men like him were dangerous, especially when they had the wealth and power to back it up. Am I nice to look at? His voice broke the silence. Yeah, you're handsome. I slipped. He chuckled, and I felt like my soul left my body. Even without looking up, I could feel his eyes on me. Finally, we pulled into the complex. I quickly undid my seatbelt, but noticed Bogard had already gotten out and walked around to the other side. Charlie got out too. Then Bogard smiled and asked, what a coincidence, Secretary Patel. You and President Huber live in the same community? I forced a laugh, hoping to brush it off. I turned to leave, when I heard a voice behind me, casual but crystal clear, yeah. We live together. Bogart's face lit up with understanding. That kind of look. Charlie, meanwhile, looked completely unbothered, as if he had no idea how devastating his words were. Assistant Bogart, that's not. But Bogart was already waving goodbye. President Hubers had quite a bit to drink. I'll leave him in your care. Don't want to disturb the two of you. See you tomorrow. Good night. Before I could say another word, the car sped away. President Huber, can you still walk on your own? The words had barely left my mouth when a dark figure leaned heavily against me. Charlie's entire weight was practically on top of me. I gasped, struggling to breathe. Artie, help me upstairs. I feel awful. I half-dragged, half-supported him up. Inside, the apartment was pitch black. Sarah? I called a few times. No answer. My hands were full, so I used my foot to close the door. I misjudged the force and ended up crashing into it, dragging Charlie down with me. When I opened my eyes, I found myself lying on a very warm, very solid cushion. Charlie had opened his eyes. I tried to scramble up, but his hand shot out and held me down. President Huber, you're drunk. I'll go find Sarah. Before I could finish, he pulled me into his arms. My face turned beet red. I don't know where I found the strength, but I shoved him away and bolted for the guest room. The moment the door clicked shut behind me, I think I heard him murmur, "Heartless little thing." The room was empty. Sarah wasn't home. Thinking about Charlie still lying out there, I quickly called Sarah. She picked up after just a few rings. Sarah, where are you? She sounded like she couldn't talk freely, her voice was low and hushed. Didn't I tell you after we finished that game the other night? I had to leave for a bit. Someone needed my help. I'd been so slow to realize it. Anyway, Artie, I gotta run. If anything comes up, just ask my uncle. He'll definitely help, for my sake. Okay? Bye-bye. What a wonderful bestie. I sat in the room, restless. What if Charlie really had been lying on the floor all night? With a resigned sigh, I got up and dragged him to the couch. He looked absolutely miserable, so I went into the kitchen and made him some hangover soup. Still uneasy, I decided to crash on the other sofa for the night. In my sleep, it felt like someone was gently stroking my face. Warmth brushed across my forehead. I wanted to open my eyes, but no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't. Forget it. Must have just been a dream. The next morning, sunlight poured in through the windows, and I woke up instantly. A blanket had been laid over me. I sat up and glanced toward the other couch, empty. Charlie? He came out of the bathroom, drying his hair with a towel. I let out a breath. President Huber. We're not at work. No need to be so formal. Uncle. Charlie's hand froze mid-motion. He looked up at me. You think you get to call me uncle? I lowered my gaze obediently and muttered, Uncle Huber. His face read loud and clear, I am not pleased. I tried to stand and head back to my room, but the moment I got up, my vision blacked out, and I collapsed. When I opened my eyes again, I was in bed, with a warm towel on my forehead. You're awake? How do you feel? Charlie was sitting beside the bed. Remembering our conversation before I passed out, I got a little petty and called, Charlie. To my surprise, he smiled, clearly very satisfied with the name. You've got a fever. The doctor already came by. Now that you're awake, you should take your medicine. Fine. What can I say? My immune system had no chance against this kind of male beauty. Before I realized what was happening, Charlie had already helped me sit up. In his large palm rested 2 bright yellow pills. Be good. Take these and you'll get better faster. Suppressing all the confusing feelings bubbling inside me, I let him bring the pills to my lips. I swallowed them. Then Charlie reached out, touched my forehead, and, like magic, pulled a milk candy out of nowhere. So sweet, the fever came and went quickly. By the next day, I was back to normal. To thank Charlie for taking care of me, I cooked him a proper meal. Over dinner, we made an agreement, our little cohabitation pact. By day, at the office, we were strictly president and secretary. By night, at home, I cooked and he did the dishes. I picked a movie and he found the stream. I scrolled on the couch, and he leaned in to peek at my screen. Charlie was way too good at flirting. I didn't know how much longer I could hold out. It had already been 2 weeks since Sarah left. Every time I called, she was too busy. I never got the chance to ask her when she'd be back. One evening after work, Assistant Bogart came to find me. Secretary Patel, President Huber has an event tonight. He needs a date. Here's the dress he picked out for you. Ever since that night, Bogart had become extra polite when talking to me. The event turned out to be a charity gala. And from the moment we entered the ballroom, all eyes were on us. I quickly understood why. According to Bogart, Charlie had never brought a female companion to any public event, until tonight. I held onto his arm, stealing a glance at his perfect jawline. This man was really good-looking. Maybe I stared a bit too long, because Charlie leaned down and whispered, "Keep looking, and we're going home." Now. I was starting to realize, I couldn't keep up with this man's speed. At an event like this, Charlie was naturally surrounded by people. Within minutes, he was swept up in conversation. I gave him a little wave, indicating I'd walk around for a bit. He nodded and went back to mingling. I wandered toward the dessert table, and caught a whiff of heavy perfume. I looked up. Oh boy. Trouble incoming. What's your relationship with Charlie? A woman appeared, clearly one of his admirers. I'm his secretary, I replied flatly. I didn't want to cause any drama, so I tried to walk away. But she stepped in front of me, eyes brimming with disdain and contempt. Secretary, huh? Must be a very demanding job. Working hard all day, and all night. I wonder, does President Huber give you double pay? The implication was crystal clear. Double pay or not doesn't matter. After all, not everyone gets the privilege of standing beside President Huber. I smiled. Don't you agree, miss? You dare talk to me like that? Do you even know who I am? Nope. Just as I predicted, her hand shot up, ready to slap me. But in the next second, I was yanked backward. A tall, imposing figure stepped between us, Charlie. The woman's arm froze awkwardly midair. She looked ridiculous. When someone bullies you, you don't know how to fight back. The event host rushed over, and it all made sense, this woman was his daughter. In front of everyone, Charlie reached out and intertwined his fingers with mine. He looked at the host and spoke coldly, "Mr. Lin, your daughter's behavior truly left an impression. Unfortunately, Sunshine Tech is too small a temple to host such grand egos. Someone will speak with you tomorrow, about pulling our investment." Then he turned and led me away. On the way out, I saw the woman getting absolutely torn apart by her father. Staring at Charlie's broad back, I couldn't help myself. I reached forward, and wrapped my arms around him from behind. He froze. On the ride home, the tension between us built, thick, electric. By the time we reached the front door, the atmosphere was nearly ready to explode. And then, the door suddenly opened from the inside. I locked eyes with Sarah. Right as both my legs were still wrapped around Charlie's waist. A scream. A loud bang. When the front door opened again, Sarah's expression toward Charlie had completely changed. She yanked me behind her like she was guarding against a thief. "Uncle, it's too late. It's not convenient for the two of us girls to have you staying here. Go sleep somewhere else." Before Charlie could even respond, bang, the door slammed shut again. "Sarah, that was your uncle out there," I whispered, trying to remind her. Sarah clutched my arm nervously. "Artie, be honest with me. Did my uncle take advantage of your beauty while I was gone and seduce you?" "Sarah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to keep it from you. I just didn't know how to tell you. Actually, I knew it. I'm telling my parents. I'll expose my uncle's true colors. Don't worry, Artie, I'll make sure you get justice." I opened my mouth to explain, but Sarah was already passionately ranting about her own uncle. "You have no idea. My uncle has a woman outside. Assistant Bogart said so. He even slept with her. He's totally obsessed with her. Don't let him fool you, Artie. Guys like him? They're just after your youth and looks. He's just playing around." Sarah looked so serious, like she was scared I'd fall too deep. I was about to cry. "Assistant Bogart's mouth is way too big, Sarah. Are you sure he's your real uncle?" Sarah scoffed. "Between family and friendship, I choose you. If it's for you, I'll turn against him without hesitation. Bestie, you're the best." Just then, her phone rang. She glanced at the caller ID and rolled her eyes. "Ugh, he dares to call. Artie, watch this. I'm about to commit righteous betrayal." Sarah took a deep breath and answered the call. "Open the door." Charlie's icy voice cut straight through the speaker. Sarah's hands trembled slightly, but she still held firm. "Nope. Uncle, Elon's art show needs an assistant." Her eyes lit up. The next second, the door opened. "Uncle, look how hardworking and diligent I am. Don't you think I'd be perfect as Elon's assistant?" Charlie glanced at me, then took a long stride into the apartment like he owned the place. Sarah followed behind him eagerly, leaving me standing outside in the wind. Bestie of the year. Charlie sat on the living room sofa, his expression cold. Sarah stood in front of him, head lowered. "Sarah, you've really grown bold." "I'm sorry, Uncle. I shouldn't have interfered in your private life. I'm sure, this was all just a big misunderstanding." So much for righteous betrayal. Charlie let out a cold snort. He picked up his phone, typed something, then tossed it onto the coffee table. "Tell Elon it was my recommendation." "Got it, Uncle. I'll leave you two alone then. Artie, take good care of my uncle for me." She scurried off to her room, and I even heard the lock click. Still in a daze, I hadn't realized Charlie was suddenly standing right beside me. Artie. He pulled me into his arms, his chin resting in the crook of my neck. Charlie, aren't you even curious what Sarah and I talked about? Nope. My conscience is clear. Don't, Charlie, Sarah might come out any minute now. My breath hitched. Don't worry. Sarah didn't come out for over 2 hours. Honestly, I had reason to believe she only came out when Charlie's phone finally died. I shot Charlie a death glare and ran back to my room. Back in my room, I expected Sarah to bombard me with questions. But instead, she just blushed and dove straight under her covers. Sigh, looks like Sarah and I both had secrets now. After being caught in the act, Charlie seemed to shed all restraint. And Sarah, she basically vanished. After that night, I hadn't seen her once. As for me, the secretary? Exhausted during the day, even more exhausted at night. Just like that, 2 grueling weeks passed. One day, while I was planning Charlie's schedule at my desk, Sarah called. Artie. Come quickly, urgent. Before I could reply, she hung up and sent me a location pin. I hesitated, then applied for leave. When I arrived, Sarah was crouched behind a parked car. I walked over and followed her gaze. Inside the cafe sat Charlie, across from a very elegant woman. I couldn't see her face clearly, but even from this distance, I could sense her graceful, refined aura. Perfect match. Equally matched. A gentleman and a lady. It all came flooding to mind at once. Sarah spotted me and gritted her teeth in anger. Artie, look at that. My uncle, he smiled. TSK. In all my years, I've never seen him smile at me like that. She kept talking, but I couldn't hear any more. Something inside my chest cracked open, just a little, and the pain was unbearable. Seeing Charlie with another woman, saying I wasn't hurt would be a lie. One night was all I needed to think things through. The next morning, I walked into Charlie's office with my resignation letter. When I placed it on his desk, he froze. What's this supposed to mean? He stared straight at me. President Huber, thank you for taking care of me these past few weeks. But I've realized. I'm not suited for this job. Charlie chuckled, picked up the letter, and ripped it clean in half right in front of me. Then tossed the pieces into the trash. That did it. All the frustration and hurt I'd bottled up suddenly overflowed. President Huber, don't worry. I won't get in the way of you and your other women. Other women? He frowned. Artie, you'd better explain that. Looking at his completely unapologetic expression, I snapped. Yesterday afternoon, you were at the cafe with that woman. Sarah and I both saw you. Charlie's expression darkened. He let out a cold snort, then pulled out his phone and dialed a number. What are you doing? Realizing who he was calling, I panicked. I lunged toward him, trying to snatch the phone out of his hand. But the height difference, Charlie easily caught me, and held me tightly in his arms. The call connected. In the very next second, Charlie roared into the phone, Sarah, you have 10 minutes to get your ass to Sunshine Tech. If you're even 1 second late, I'll have you shipped out of the country. With that, he flung the phone onto the desk. I had never seen Charlie like that. I was stunned into silence. Sarah burst into the office just as the 10th minute ticked down. She looked like she'd rolled straight out of bed and into a tornado. Sarah, have you been so idle lately that your brain started malfunctioning? Charlie's voice was ice cold. It made the whole room tense. Sarah flinched, like she'd just remembered something. You're mad because I interfered, aren't you? Well, you were being shady with that woman. Oh, impressive, Charlie sneered. Then he reached for the office landline and pressed a string of numbers. The call connected quickly. Charlie? What is it? A gentlewoman's voice came through. Sister-in-law, have you seen Sarah since you returned to the country? No, not yet. I met with you at the cafe yesterday afternoon, but we were so busy talking, I forgot to ask about that girl. She's doing great. That's good to hear. I'm a little tied up right now, let's catch up later, okay? Click. Sarah was stunned. I was just as confused. Sarah, maybe you should donate your brain and your eyes to someone who'll actually use them. Keeping them on you is a complete waste. Sarah looked like she was about to cry. Her righteous fury from earlier had completely vanished. I wanted to hug her, but as soon as I moved, Charlie's strong arm around my waist tightened. Maybe she picked up on the look I gave her, because Sarah bit her lip and glared at Charlie. Don't think you can do whatever you want just because you're my uncle. Artie is my best friend, and no one gets to hurt her, not even you. Even if that woman yesterday was your sister-in-law, you can't deny you have another woman. I saw the scratch marks on your back. You had bruises, too. You think I'm dumb? I know exactly what that means. I didn't see her face, but anyone who left you looking like that can't be a good person. Charlie's expression shifted. His gloom faded into something lighter, amusement. He glanced at me and said, teasingly, she is unreasonable. So you admit it? Ugh. Trashy man. I lowered my head. I didn't dare look at anyone. In the end, Charlie made a call and had security escort Sarah out of the building. The huge office fell silent. It was just the two of us. You trust an outsider over me? No, I don't. Good, he said flatly. Then I approve your resignation. If you're quitting as my secretary, that's fine. I happen to need a CEO's wife anyway, and you seem like a perfect fit. But you'll need a license for that position. Charlie, you. Before I could finish, he kissed me. It was a deep, hot, overwhelming kiss. When it ended, I realized something had been placed in my hand. I looked down, it was a photo frame. Inside, a little girl danced in the sunlight, but the background was what made my heart ache. Plink. A single tear fell on the glass. Then another. And another. I looked up through a mist of tears. Charlie cupped my face gently, wiping them away with the warmth of his thumb. Artie, never doubt my love for you. That night, Charlie held me close and told me everything I'd never known. That there truly was such a thing as love at first sight. Charlie, extra chapter. That day, I went to the cemetery for a relative's memorial. When the ceremony ended, I took a phone call. By the time I finished, everyone else had left. I was alone, walking down the slope toward the parking lot. I remember, the sun was warm and bright. Halfway down, something made me glance sideways. And I couldn't look away. A young girl in all black was dancing alone in front of a tombstone. I stepped closer, quietly hiding behind a tree, and watched in stunned silence. There was no music. She was just dancing, barefoot in the sunlight, each spin delicate and mournful. My heart clenched. I felt the sorrow radiating off her like a scent in the air. On instinct, I pulled out my phone and took a photo. I didn't know it yet, but fate had already drawn its lines. I thought it was just a fleeting moment, a coincidence. Until one day at a family gathering, I stepped out into the garden and saw my niece video calling someone from the swing chair. Just one glance, and I knew. It was her. The girl from the cemetery. Her name was Artie. My niece's best friend. I stood behind them for a while, watching. She'd grown up, but when she smiled, her eyes still sparkled like sunlight. That night, back at home, I dug the photo out of my drawer and looked at the little dancer. It felt like a moment out of a dream, only now I was standing in it. The very next morning, Artie's file appeared on my desk. A simple resume, but every line stung a little. I finally understood why she'd been dancing in that place, at that time. Her father died in a car accident while driving her to a dance competition. He'd shielded her with his own body, and saved her life. Since then, the girl who once loved dancing, never danced again. What I saw that day wasn't just a dance. It was a ritual. A tribute to her father, to the passion she buried with him. I closed the file and sat in silence for a long, long time. I even canceled an important meeting that day. I went to her school. I watched from a distance as she walked beside my niece, her arm linked through hers, her smile curved gently under the sun. And I knew. I was done for. The only time my heart ever truly stirred, it was for a girl named Artie.